So, welcome, dear listeners, to another edition of Starry Skies, our monthly roundup of what you can see in the night sky this month. I'm Mark Hardaker.
And I'm Steve Tonkin.
Well, what do you think of January then, Steve? It was a mixed bag, wasn't it?
Oh, real curate's egg, but there were some stunningly clear nights. Yeah. And the nice thing was, the best of them was near the new moon, so there wasn't a moon to interfere with it. Well, it was just after the new moon, so once the crescent moon had set, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those of us who have work the next day can't stay up all night.
I did a 3 o'clock one morning, but I felt it the next day. I'm not as young as I used to be. No. Anyway, let's press on. I did manage to, as I say, drag the telescope out on a couple of nights. Yeah. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Okay. So this month we're going to be watching as many of our planets leave the sky, aren't we?
No, it's going to be planet-free later in the year almost.
Yeah, we're going to have a pretty barren late spring and summer. But there's always plenty to see in the night sky, so don't worry. Yeah. We'll always, on these podcasts on Forest FM, we'll always be bringing you most up to date. So let's have a look at what's in the sky and what we can talk about this month. We've put, as usual, the charts up on the website. So on the Forest FM website, the Fordingbridge Astronomers website on Facebook, and the Wessex Astronomical Society Facebook page, you'll find all the charts you need for this month. What's the constellation of the month to be this month?
It's Auriga, the Charioteer.
That's not a constellation you hear of too often.
No, which is a shame because it's a marvellous constellation. And, of course, being high in the sky, it clears a lot of light pollution. So you can see the delights in it much more easily than if it were lower.
So it's going to be more or less overhead for us during this month of February, right?
Overhead in the southern part of the sky, but very, very high up.
Good. Well, let's start with the planets, because that's going to be all over in a few minutes here. What about Mercury? Nothing to see this month at all.
No, Mercury, nothing to see here. Okay. Move on.
Move on. So move on to Venus. Just about visible if you're very early in the morning, low in the east before sunrise. But catch it quickly, because by the end of February, it will have disappeared. It's passing nearer and nearer to the sun. We'll pass behind it, in fact, during June. And that's it.
That's it for ages.
Until the end of the year, are we?
No, because we're both going around the sun in the same direction, so as it goes behind it, it's a very, very long time before it appears out the other side.
Yeah, so forget it then for the rest of 24. But it has been a spectacular sight in the eastern sky in the mornings and the western sky earlier.
Oh, hasn't it?
For nearly a year, hasn't it?
Yes, it's lovely, and if you have a small telescope, it's really worth watching it for the next apparition.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that then. But what you can see is it changes its phase like the moon does. So you get the very small, sort of nearly full Venus, and then a very large crescent Venus.
Yeah, as it moves closer and closer to us. But as we say, it's gone now. Forget about it. We'll not see it until the end of the year. Yeah. And a similar position for Mars.
Yeah.
That's close to the sun now, isn't it? And while Venus is a dazzling white object low in the sky at dawn in February, Mars, which is pretty close to it actually, is a dim red glow. So you're not going to see that, are you?
No.
So no Mercury, no Venus, no Mars. How about Jupiter?
Evening sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we've got a little bit of it left in the evening sky, really worth looking at. Absolutely obvious. It's the sort of thing I think Mark and I both know is the one that people ask, what's that bright star up there?
Yeah, especially when the moon's near it.
Yeah, people notice it, because they look at the moon and then they see
So look
Jupiter.
out for that on Valentine's Day, on the 14th of February. The crescent moon will again be close to Jupiter, and you'll not miss them. They're too close together in the sky.
Yeah.
But the sun is catching up to Jupiter, so by the end of the month of February, when it gets dark a little later in the evening as well, Jupiter will be lower and lower, and we'll start to lose it probably during March.
Yep.
What about Saturn? Not that at all.
Nope. Bye-bye, Saturn. We'll see you later in the year, if we're lucky.
So we got next to nothing. So finally we're left with just Uranus, which, curiously, is the highest planet in the sky right now.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it before, grab our star chart, which we've got to put on their websites again, or our Facebook pages, and see if you can find it with your binoculars. You can't see it with the naked eye, but it's pretty easy to find, not far from Jupiter, not far from the Pleiades. So use the star chart, your binoculars, and hop along until you find Uranus, which will look like a tiny green dot.
Yeah. And if you don't see the green, don't worry about it. It depends on the conditions in the atmosphere. If not enough light's coming through, it doesn't trigger your colour sensors. So,
and it looks just like a star. But at least with the star charts, you should be able to find it. And as for Neptune, which is the last planet, also gone. Goodbye.
Yeah. Later, we'll see you all later in the year.
But never mind. So what we do have in the sky right now are a couple of comets. Now, whenever astronomers talk about comets, we've got to set your hopes here at the right level. When we talk about comets here, we're not talking about flashing objects across the sky or great big tails spouting from the horizon. No. These are faint, small patches of light in the sky. And there are a couple in the sky right now that we can reach with binoculars. The first one is called Comet 144P Kushida. What does that mean, Steve?
Well, 144P, the P means it's periodic, which means that it comes round at a regular rate. So the most famous periodic comet is Comet P1, Halley. So that's what it was. It's the 144th periodic comet discovered. And the person who discovered it was named Kushida.
Yep.
So comets are named usually after the discoverer.
And Yoshio Kushida in Japan discovered it in 1994. So it's really quite a new comet discovery. And the reason we're mentioning it at all this month, because these comets are usually fairly dim, is it will cross the prominent cluster of the Hyades in Taurus. So how do we find the Hyades, Steve? What's the easiest way to find them?
Well, if you get Orion's belt and you follow it up to the right, you'll see points to a V-shaped group of stars, which is the V's lying on its side. And at the tip of the bottom leg of the V is a very bright orange star, which is called Aldebaran. But that V-shaped group of stars is the brightest stars in the Hyades. Look at it with binoculars, and of course you see many, many more than that.
Yeah.
So you will see a fuzzy blob crossing it.
Yeah, and have a look on the map. We're going to put a map on the website, as we just said, and that will show how the comet changes its position from day to day as it passes through the cluster. Again, don't expect a great flash, don't expect a big tail, but you could watch from the 4th roughly to the 11th of February. So during a week, you'll see slowly the comet will pass in front of the Hyades.
Yes, the other thing you can do, if you have a DSLR camera, you can just set it and just take a photograph, maybe 30 seconds of the Hyades. You'll get the stars trailing a little bit because Earth's rotating under it, but you're looking for a green fuzzy blob because this comet will look green.
Yeah, it's most of our comets that we have in the night sky look grey to our eye, but on a photographic image they look green due to emission of light from diatomic carbon molecules. Yeah. Anyway, that's another story.
And you could possibly also pick it up with a mobile phone camera. It depends on the quality of your camera.
Yeah. But I just took a picture of it the other evening. It's come out really quite nice. I'll post that one as well. There's going to be lots on the website this month, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then we have another one as well. There's another comet in Virgo, so you'll see this comet after midnight.
Is it 62 or 26? I can never remember.
62. P62. It was discovered in 1965 at the Purple Mountain Observatory in China. Well, they decided to name it not after an individual, but after the observatory. So I'm going to test my Chinese now. Purple Mountain in Chinese is Chuxinshan. So this is comet 62P Chuxinshan. And it's passing right now between the constellations of Leo and Virgo. It's quite bright. I've seen it with my binoculars the last couple of nights. Quite bright and moving quite slowly. However, the challenge is it's moving through an area of the sky full of other misty, flobby patches called galaxies.
Yes, indeed. If you've got decent binoculars, you will look at that sky when your eyes are dark adapted on a really dark night, and there's not a problem finding fuzzy blobs. The problem is sorting out which one is which.
That's right.
Because there are so many of them. Yeah. And what you will find also is you'll see them more easily out the corner of your eye. When you look at them, they sort of fade away. It's a thing called averted vision. We can see faint stuff much more easily around the periphery of our vision than right in the middle. So, yeah, have a look at that. But again, it's the fuzzy blob that moves from night to night. The ones that don't, they're just boring old galaxies. They're just, groups
they're
of...
forever.
They're just groups of hundreds of millions of billions of stars, which our old friend Charles Messier, who we keep mentioning, 18th century astronomer, he catalogued all these fuzzy blobs of galaxies because they were boring, because they weren't comets.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's about time we had a comet, wasn't it? We had a really nice one in 2020, Comet Neowise, which many of us here in East Dorset will have seen.
Yeah, that was also named after the observatory. Yeah,
yeah, but we haven't seen a really bright one for some while. There's some hope for one in October. We'll talk about that as it gets nearer the time. Let's not get excitement up too high, shall we?
Because comets are incredibly unpredictable. Great comet observer David Levy says comets are like cats. They have tails and they do what they like.
And not all of them have tails even. That's the other thing. Some have and some do not. So anyway, just while we're over in that part of the sky, Steve, there's a couple of little things, and I think you mentioned in your binocular article in Sky at Night magazine this month, the head of Hydra and M44. The two really beautiful binocular objects down towards where the comet is, so in the east in the late evening in February.
Well, M44 is to the right of Leo, actually, so you take the reverse question mark of Leo's head, and if you're somewhere reasonably dark, it just looks like a fuzzy patch. The ancient Greeks called it nephilion, which means the little cloud. And it's a thing called an open cluster. So it's a cluster of stars which is quite open. It's not tightly compacted or anything. And you look at it with binoculars, it's really easy, even in a light-polluted sky with binoculars. And it's framed by 4 other stars, which are called the manger, or Praecipi.
Yep.
So the whole things get moved together. It's called the Beehive Cluster, M44, Praecipi. So it's lovely.
It is.
And then the head of Hydra is just a nice little asterism, which is a group of stars. So this is the head of the constellation of Hydra, the water snake. And in binoculars, again, you see lots of different colours and that. Binoculars really bring out colours in stars, which is why I like them so much.
Yeah.
Or one reason I like them. The other reason, of course, is they're incredibly portable. They don't take a lot of setting up.
Yeah. And for us astronomers with telescopes, well, we all have binoculars, but the time it takes you set your telescope up, you can be up and observing for half an hour already with decent-sized binoculars.
Indeed.
And you get a very nice view because you're using both eyes.
Yeah.
And 2 eyes better than 1.
Indeed. That's the title of one of my talks.
Indeed. Right, let's move on. So what we're going to talk about now is the Constellation of the Month. So have a look on the website. Just it should be on there as you're listening to this program. And have a look at the constellation Auriga. It's not one of the more popular ones. It's not one you hear about. It's not Orion or the Plough or whatever. But it's really quite a prominent one. As we've talked earlier, almost overhead, a little bit south of overhead at mid-month. And you find it in the shape of a sort of distorted pentagon up there in the sky.
Yeah, if you wait until Orion is just past south, then it's directly above Orion. So you can recognize Orion and you'll see this. And the bright star in it, which is Capella, if you look at it, it's like it's upside down. There's a little star down to the right from it, and then down to the left of those two are 2 little stars together, which are called the Kids. And it's
the Capella itself is actually the 6th brightest object in the sky, 6th brightest star in the sky, not object. So it's really very prominent. And when you look at it with the naked eye or with binoculars, it's clearly yellowy. Similar sort of colour to our sun. And even with the best telescope, it still looks like a single star. But the fact is, it's a quadruple star. And that means if you got up real close to it, you'd see that there are 2 pairs of stars, each in orbit around each other, and the 2 pairs in orbit round themselves, if you can picture that. So Just imagine if you're on a nearby planet and someone said, I'll come and wake you up at sunset. Well, what? I mean, there'd be so many suns in the night sky, you wouldn't know what was going on. So Capella, relatively close, about 42 light years away. But it has been much closer in previous millennia, and it was at one point the brightest star in the sky. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Well, how long ago was that?
I just checked it. It was 250 years ago. Sorry, 250,000 years ago.
Ah, it's better.
Capella was minus 1.8 in the sky, so brighter than Sirius is today, but it's clearly been receding, and it's now not so bright. But it was once the brightest star in the sky. Did not know that. And somehow, and it, again, lost in antiquity perhaps, this constellation is a chariot and its driver, the Charioteer. Now, just exactly what those different legends mean and where they all come from is a bit lost in the mists of time, isn't it, really? Different origins, different races, whatever, with different stories about these stars. But somehow those three little stars you mentioned have always been associated with goats, Steve.
Yeah, odd that, isn't it?
It's weird.
I mean, Capella even comes from the word for a Greek word for goat.
Yep.
Well, we also get Capricorn, the goat.
That's it. Okay, I'm learning something every day myself here. So it was recorded as a constellation way back in the Babylonian times in Mesopotamia, and even then was associated with a goat herd or a shepherd. And it's not really clear why. Next to it, if you look to the left, as you're looking straight up at Capella, look to the left of it, there you have the second brightest star in Auriga. The first, of course, is always Alpha. The second is Beta, so this is Beta Aurigae, which is also called Menkallinan. And guess what that means in Arabic? Do you know that one?
I don't know. You're about to tell us.
I'm about to tell you. So it means the shoulder of the reins holder.
So he is the charioteer, and that's his shoulder.
So that's his shoulder, because if you imagine you're looking at Capella, then it would be his right shoulder, wouldn't it? Where Menkantalin is. That's also a very close double star, apparently. With the pair rotating around their common centre of gravity once every 4 days. Now, you imagine how close those two must be for two stars to be rotating around each other once every 4 days. Apparently, the distance between them is a fifth of the distance that the Sun is from Mercury, so they're very close together.
Yeah,
and these stars, they must be like pear drops, Steve. With
they must be. They must be pulling bits of each other towards each other, as it were.
Yeah. And they actually do cross in front of each other and causing their brightness to vary ever so slightly. You can't see that with the naked eye. Yeah, so that's where we are for this month. We do hope that you will check our websites. Again, it's the Forest FM fan page. It is the Fordingbridge Astronomers Facebook page or website, and the Wessex Astronomical Society Facebook page. Those two societies meet at the beginning and the middle of the month. Please come and join us. All the details are on the website where you can find us. We welcome novice astronomers, people with just a passing interest, as well as experts. And we have some great fun together too.
Oh, don't we just?
And of course, don't forget, we do go out when the weather allows us in this terrible climate that we have of late. We do get out with our telescopes, we do show you the stars, and we're willing to do outreach for schools and Cubs and Scouts if you ever wanted to do that.
Yeah, and we will be doing some of that in early February as well.
We will. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you in March, and until next time, thank you very much. This is Mark Hardaker
and Steve Tonkin,
wishing you all clear skies.